Huge win.
Celtics beat the Pacers 116-111 to salvage their season.
Oh, you're gonna come in like
Live
that.
to see another game.
You're gonna come in like that.
But
I
you
mean,
feel
there
a
are
lot
some
better
times
2-2 than you feel 1-3, even if tomorrow's going to be a walk in the park against Memphis. But let's lay it out. Once again, Josue Pavone, Heavy.com and CLNS Media, Bobby Manning, CLNS Media, Celtics blog, Jimmy Toscano, a veteran of all things media, former NBC Sports, former Metro.
CLNS now.
I know. We're all CLNS here.
Yeah, that's a given, man.
Okay?
That's our common bond. Well,
That's
me and
what we
John have
do.
a couple common bonds.
So let's get into it. 17. This story of the first half, whether it was the Pacers' hot shooting or the Celtics' terrible defense, Indiana shot 58%. Third quarter went like third quarters go, and the Pacers ripped out a 17-point lead. And then Peyton Pritchard happened, and Rob Williams happened. A lot of different things happened, and definitely some lineup tweaks in there. And the Celtics roared back, and they took did they max out at an 8-point lead there? I mean, they flipped that thing completely from 17 to plus
lead.
8.
Yeah.
And then they held on late. They tried to give it away, but they hung on there. A lot of great things. Pritchard was one. Tatum was one. Definitely some questions about, just rotation, who's in, who's out, what Brad chose to do. Javonte Green played quite a bit here. But let's just get your opening thoughts here. Josue, start with you.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge win. Definitely a huge win for the Celtics guys, because I think this is sort of this is that kind of win that you get early in the season that start to help form your identity, and that's exactly what this team needs to do. They need to start forming their identity and find out what kind of team they're going to be built into, whether that's with Kemba or without. They got to have this thing together for when Kemba does come back. And of course, there were some things that didn't go their way, especially in that third quarter. A huge swing, but you said it, John. I mean, Pritchard, huge minutes, second unit minutes. These minutes are going to go a long, long way. And it's not necessarily about running up the scoreboard or of course, him dropping 20 points. No. Big plays like that, steals after you just turn the ball over, clapping your hands together, asking for the ball from the weak side, from Jason Tatum, your all-star. This is a rookie, guys. Very impressed with Pritchard. Because that's the kind of approach that you don't necessarily see from someone like him. And of course, that's why Brad Stevens had to go with him. It's funny. I'm watching the telecast and Scalabrine is like, man, this guy's huffing and puffing. I'm sure Brad's going to take him out the game. I'm like, he can't take him out the game, Scal. He's got to close this thing out. And that's exactly why he checked right back in and it made another big play down the stretch for the Celtics to help him win this. But of course, it wasn't just that, right? It wasn't just that. Jaylen Brown taking it to the rack, Jason Tatum taking it to the rack. That's how they closed this game out, right? Don't get me wrong. Pritchard was huge. That second unit, those minutes go a long way. Celtics don't come back if it wasn't for him. But those two closers, attacking the rim, getting to the free throw line, that's how all-stars close out games. And that's what we saw tonight.
They played some defense. They didn't play any defense whatsoever from the second quarter through the third quarter. And then they get out to the fourth quarter, and you get Green out there. You get Rob Williams out there with Tatum. They string together some stops. Jeff Teague gets those 2 steals to start the quarter. They get out running in transition. You're right, Josue. All those offensive things matter. But let's be serious. The Celtics played pretty good offense from the start of this game to the end of this game. The defense was completely missing for the first 3 quarters. Take out the fourth quarter. This team's the worst defensive team in the NBA by far to start this year. Tough competition, all that stuff. I don't really care. You're going to play tough teams during the year. And this team's been non-existent on the defensive end of the floor. So it's great they strung out a win here. I don't think I've ever seen a team, or a Celtics team rather, turn a game around on a dime like they did between the third and the fourth of this one. But I'm still wildly concerned about that defense. They have some horrid lineups out there when it comes to that end of the floor. They found a good combination to end the game, but you need a lot more ones than that.
I mean, we've done this before, right? With Toronto last year in the playoffs. When shots fall, your defense is terrible. When the shots don't fall, your defense is great. Like Indiana was unconscious from 3. You just don't expect them to drop that many. Right. They weren't all wide open threes. They just knocked down.
Yeah. In that first half, I love that they were forcing them to shoot it. I mean, of course, it wasn't going their way, but I thought that the Pacers were really uncomfortable. Whereas, 2 nights ago, they were attacking the rim. Sabonis started doing it, and then he starts relucting to jacking up threes. And I'm like, wait a minute. The Celtics are making them play the way they want, and that's exactly what you want your defense to do. But then, of course, the second half, that third quarter was a completely different Celtics team.
hit everything. And that's the thing is we always get into this offense defense debate. And to me, I'm always more concerned with offense because you can tell when the offense is going well, whether shots fall or don't fall, but you could see, that Tatum today is a great example. He was 1 of 3 from 3. He only took 3 threes because he was aggressive and he was going to the basket. Pritchard was constantly moving. Like, that's the type of stuff you want to see on offense that makes you feel better about the team. I always think defense is just going to fall into place. Across the league, the numbers are huge. I don't think teams are playing with as much effort early. They don't have cohesion on the defensive side, so they're all kind of out of
But
whack.
the Celtics are worse than anyone in that regard, so there is some reason for concern.
There is, and their lineups, they don't have great lineups out there. But Jimmy, we haven't heard from you yet, so your thoughts.
Oh, I get to say something in this show? Great.
Yeah.
All right. So,
how about this? ISO cam, boom.
Wow, okay.
Right off the bat.
Let me get all my points in at once. No, there was a few things that I liked tonight. The first thing that stood out to me was the Celtics not just relying on the 3-point. When you look at the box score, you see 10 free throw attempts from Tatum, 10 free throw attempts from Brown, 10 free throw attempts from Smart. I mean, we've been kind of harping on that. I mean, Jason Tatum went 2 games without getting the free throw line. Now he's going on the line 10 times. So I think the message was sent to him, hopefully through Brad, that, he needs to be getting to the line more, whether that means, screaming for a foul, whether that means just being more aggressive and drawing contact, whatever that was good to see. You're talking about the defense. I'm not concerned about the Celtics defense for a lot of the reasons that John mentioned. A lot of it's effort. We're early in the season. Hasn't been a ton of practice getting in your sets at that point. And I did think the perimeter defense was kind of weak and transition defense was kind of weak. Yeah, Indy was hitting threes, but I think a lot of those were easy threes for them. The Celtics were like, here, take the 3, and then they were hitting it. So I wasn't super pumped about that effort on the defensive end. And we mentioned him off the top. Pritchard, again, with a really strong performance on both ends. I mean, even when he turned the ball over, he was hustling back to, get it back on the other end. So I liked what I saw for him. So those were some of the big points that stood out to me. And I thought Thompson had a great game, too, to start to finish for the most part.
Let me ask you this. And again, we debated last game whether Pritchard was playing too much. Like, is it bad that
Joe Sway was laughing at him?
No, but I
was laughing at you being excited about him being a.
Well, here you go. Here's the excitement.
You have to look at it.
It's a fair conversation. I was jokingly saying. Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
You have to look at it 2 different ways. Is it so? Where John's coming from is it's bad that Pritchard is playing as much as he is because the Celtics have no choice because they're so thin or they're so they lack the depth. And to see him at this point in the season means that other people aren't stepping up or other people aren't available. That's like the glass half empty way. The glass half full way is what Bobby was saying was he's playing because he's proven that he can play. He's earned those minutes apparently, whether it's in practice or whether it is due to opportunity. And I guess you could meet in the middle and say, good on him for making the most of his opportunity because isn't that kind of what success is? Like preparation and opportunity meet and you have success. So, I mean, if he wasn't earning those, if he wasn't earning his keep out there, somebody else would be taking those minutes. So yeah, he has the opportunity because of the situation that they're in. And also, yeah, he's staying in the game because he's being, a positive effect out there. So I think that's kind of like a little bit of both.
Well, that's what I was saying is we were joking a little bit about,
the commenters were like, you guys are crazy because you're turning it into a negative. It's like, we're not. We're just saying
sound like we're
not. I actually said,
I said
half tongue in cheek after the second game. Pritchard's our 4th most talented player. And I meant it. And people were like, that's ridiculous. But right now, again, it's hard to argue. Right now, he looks like he absolutely should be running the point for this team. And you wanted him out there in critical. Who out there when he left the game for a minute or two late in the game, you were like, oh no, we got to get Pritchard back in. Who did think that to themselves?
I was like, he's too tired. I'm like, no, Brad needs him. He needs to.
I was like, oh my God, you can't sit Pritchard. And that was a legitimate thought I had.
Get him back in the game.
They're doomed without Pritchard, but it was real. You absolutely wanted him in there late. And I didn't object to anything he did. He got caught in the corner on that double clutch 3. It happens. Then he took a great 3 in rhythm that went in and out. That would have been a dagger 3. That was a ballsy take, and it was a good stroke, and that shot was true, and it could have gone down. I have no problem with him taking those shots late,
Yeah, Yo, do you know how hot Bobby would have came in at that 3-pointer went down? Bobby would have came in swinging, man. He would have been so hyped.
Hey, I haven't said apology cam like you guys did on opening night. I don't need you guys on your knees apologizing, but
We don't have to
we have yet anything. Yeah.
What would we apologize for? If anything, I'll apologize for making.
Not you, Jimmy. Not you. Joe Sway was the one.
All right, that's fair. I would.
You can't apologize for the Teague thing for game 1. I can't apologize for.
Well, look at what Teague's done since. So that's my point. I'm glad John said he's been the 4th best Celtic because to me, he looks like the better backup point guard option than Jeff Teague right now. And they're going to play some minutes together. It's fine. Interchangeable ball handling and all that stuff. Some shooting off ball from Teague.
Teague's going to play more of a 2 off the bench on that second unit, I think.
Yeah, Pritchard's ready to run that backup offense spot. And the pacing's unbelievable. I mean, these are the guys Brad Stevens has loved to have, whether it be Pressey or Shane Larkin one of those years. And this is a better version of one of those guys. So
it is an absolutely better version. I like Shane Larkin a lot too, but already
I love Shane Larkin,
yeah, the draft pick was bold. I remember, that night we were sitting here saying, who is this guy? But his college tapes shined. He was one of the best players in college last year. And everything you saw there, he's bringing to the table here. Aggressive takes, fearlessness, and excellent dribbling.
Yep. And you know what else? He's actually a player that's somewhat actually ready to play in the NBA. Brad Stevens has kind of been stuck with these rookies that they come out early, they're hurt, they're not prepared at all for the NBA game, and they have to learn on the fly, where it's like, okay, you got a 4-year guy in Pritchard who understands the game, is a little bit more mature both mentally and physically to play at the NBA level. So it just makes sense. And I can remember Brad Stevens talking about Malcolm Brogdon when he was on the Bucks and how impressed he was with Brogdon. And he basically said, Brogdon's not a rookie. Even though he is a rookie, he's not a rookie. And I feel like obviously I'm not comparing Pritchard to Brogdon, but I feel like they're on the similar trajectory where Pritchard's a little bit more seasoned, coming into the league. And I want to say one more thing. And I don't know if this is racist, but Pritchard kind of comes off as a little crafty out there.
If you start a sentence with that, don't finish the sentence.
Well, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Obviously, you can't start a sentence like that, bro.
I'm kidding, but it's the old crafty label. But he is crafty out there. The way he goes in and out.
He's a basketball player. He's a ball player. He looks like he was born to play point guard. He just the way he handles the ball and he holds onto it and he gets in and he keeps people off of his body and he gets into the lane and he's shorter than everybody, but he's still able to kind of see where he is. He doesn't get lost. The game doesn't move too fast for him. I think that's the most important thing. For so many rookies, they get out there and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? Or
exactly.
Or they're so freaked out that they're passive and they just stand in a corner and they're like, God, I hope it's like the nervous kid in Little League at second base. It's like, please don't hit a grounder to me, just don't pass it to me. And if you do, I'm going to give it right back. And you mentioned injured rookies. My blood pressure just shot. If I had a blood pressure monitor right on, the second you mentioned it, I just started having Romeo.
I didn't want to say names. I didn't want to give you a long list.
I'm like, you said it makes me so angry.
So it makes me think too.
Neesmith has about another week until I start freaking out there too.
Whether they're injured or just not anywhere near ready to play in the NBA, it's you can go down the longest list of guys that have been taken based on your hopes and dreams of what they may or may not become. Pritchard's just you kind of, obviously he's a guy that you just kind of knew what you were getting a little bit going in.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, too. Have the Celtics drafted a point guard, or at least one that matters, since Rajon Rondo, almost 12 years ago? That's not a position they've been targeting in the draft in terms of development. When Danny did that with Rondo, it was an excellent choice, another late-round guy, who he kind of moved up and took there, and it worked. So they haven't needed to target that position. They've had Kemba, Isaiah, Kyrie, these type of guys in recent years. Now you come into this year knowing Kemba's not going to be there, and they had to scout that position extensively. Look at all the options on the table here, and guys were taken before him: Cole Anthony, Kira Lewis, those type of guys. It's very early, but right now Peyton Pritchard is 5th in the entire draft in scoring. Most of any guy outside the lottery, just past Cole Anthony tonight. So the early returns to the draft are fantastic.
Yeah. So outside of Pritchard, and again, we're going to try, I'm warning everybody here, we got another game tomorrow. We're going to move a little quick tonight. We're going to try to get off by 10 o'clock. We'll try to get to some questions later. But moving off of Pritchard, we did talk about Tatum. I did think that this was his best game. Do you think any of that chatter, he heard any of the chatter? Or Brad talked to him? Because not our chatter, but obviously just Tatum and his shot selection and all of these things was an issue. Settling for the long, the 2 long 3-pointers there in the game here. It felt like he had a different purpose tonight. And the stats that pop the most here are the efficiency again. Only 1 of 3, only 3 3-point field goal attempts and 10 free throws after just not shooting free throws for pretty much the entire season. All of that stuff leads against the same exact team 2 nights later, leads me to believe something in his mind told him, I'm playing this one different tonight.
Yeah, no question. And sometimes I think it was the missed shot, or at least the decision to take that 3 that ultimately made him think, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to stop thinking so much about this, because after I made the game winner, everyone's like, oh, that one's a fluke, go on. Everyone was saying it. We were saying it. And of course, it was true to a certain extent. And I think that at the end of the day, Jason Tatum was thinking to himself, you know what, maybe I can do this again. Maybe it was him that decided to take that option. Maybe the option was taken away. He was the one who ultimately decided, you know what, I'm going to do a legitimate 3-point this time. And it didn't go his way. The chatter continues for a couple of days. Okay, Tatum he's opposed to going inside more often, as opposed to, compared to other superstars across the league. And of course, he showed from the beginning, and he got it going early, which is what I love the most about Tatum tonight, because that's always been sort of our, that's our bugaboo, right, guys? We always talk about, well, why can't Tatum sort of get things going? Why does he have to rev up until the second half? And that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And I looked again. He only took 3 shots in that first kind of early rotation he gets. He always plays, everybody at home, everybody watching is familiar with the rotation. He's always kind of in for that first 6, maybe 6.5 minutes, then sits, comes back with a couple minutes left in the first quarter and starts the second. And so that's his rotation. But so many of those games, he doesn't even get a shot off. He was looking for it a little more. He got 3 shots. He was 1 for 3 to start in that first little bit. But he looked like he was in the flow of the game the whole way through, and it was that step through move. How many times did he do that? Got himself into the lane. People joke about the 2 inches. That matters. Like whether or not he's so long. That little up.
But Joe Sway always says
he should be able to get his shot off.
He's the 2 of them.
He should be able to get a clean shot off from anywhere he wants to on the court, instead of constantly having hands in his face and taking the step back is great, and it's a dagger, and it's demoralizing, and it's a great thing to have in the bag. But you're right, you get too reliant on it.
Yeah,
because it's just such an FU shot, and when you're hitting it, people are like, "What am I going to do here?" It really is like the mark of a scorer now.
Exactly. And I was just going to say, to me, the better move is the hesitation. And that's what he kept doing. That's the move.
Yeah, the hesitation.
That's how Kevin Durant crushed the Celtics.
Yes.
Christmas Day.
Very Durant.
Time again. Hesitate. Everyone's jumping over that thing. Bodies flying past them. That's what Tatum needs to hone and just sharpen that, throughout the course of the regular season.
Yeah.
He did have one of those shots end of the second quarter when Green actually almost put it in at the buzzer. But that was a pretty bad shot by Tatum. 6 seconds left, and he didn't even look for Marcus Smart, who was wide open at the top. So
he's gonna do those. I thought those.
I'm not gonna nitpick every shot he ever takes, but that would be one example. If that happened in the fourth quarter, it's like the entire show would be like, what's wrong with Jason Tatum's decision making?
Right.
Yeah, transition will help anybody too, and that's kind of how he got going in that fourth quarter, getting out on those runs. And that's what this offense has been missing to some degree. I think they've been great in the half court with Tatum and Brown leading the way when they're not turning the ball over. And that's the one criticism I'll give Tatum again tonight. Turnovers a little bit high through the early portions of that game, and some bad ones too. He kind of gets caught in that pick and roll sometimes with bodies all around him. So that's a point for improvement for him to continue to do. But everything Joe Sway said, correct. Jimmy, good points there on him. He's shaping it out. He's morphing into that primary ball handler role, and we're seeing positive things from him. But this team needs transition. They're not getting stops. They're not getting defensive rebounds with the defensive issues, and that's going to cut off your whole transition game. Luckily, they're forcing turnovers.
Well, the rebounds are interesting, too. And again, it's only 4 games, but he's almost 10 rebounds a game. He's 39 rebounds through 40 games.
Yep, excellent rebounder. He's as good as anyone at that.
Right. And so that's another kind of added value piece, right now to his game. Oh my God, Bucks 140-91.
Oh,
they broke the 3-point record tonight for threes in a game. I think they have 28.
Jeez. I was surprised it wasn't nationally televised. Maybe they knew.
Giannis going off, or is it a team effort?
Well, no Jimmy, no Butler, not you, Jimmy.
Team shooting.
No, me either.
Man, you made me lose my train of thought.
Jimmy's Raptors are in trouble, by the way.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Those are Bobby's Raptors, not mine.
Oh, sorry, Bobby's Raptors.
You mixed us up.
How dare you?
I'm worried about the Raptors, and I'm worried about any team that's not going to play defense.
You hear that, Toronto? Bobby's worried about the Raptors.
Yeah,
I'm worried about
they were worried too.
I'm worried about the Celtics too. I want to see them come in and night out and defend like this as they did at the end of the game.
Well, I was going to say another valuable
NBA,
thing.
Man. It's the
another
NBA.
thing I think is really valuable right now.
That?
Well, a lot of teams score. I mean, what's going to set you apart in the regular season is playing top-level defense like the Celtics did last year. And I'll give it to you. It's early season. A lot of teams are doing this.
A lot of teams are playing kind of 80% right now.
The thing that makes me feel good there is the Clippers are down with them in last place, and the Rockets as well. That one not as much. Yeah.
Oh, you mean defense?
Defense, yep. So there's some other good teams slacking in that regard. But I'll say this, that lineup to open the fourth, plus 54, 92 defensive rating, 146 offensive rating. They found something there.
Yeah.
To be specific, Rob, Pritchard, Tatum, Green, and Teague. That was a good group. And finally, because they couldn't find a lineup that worked.
It was pace and athleticism, again, mattered there. And again, you talked about Pritchard adds that pace on offense. Williams obviously is just more active there. Javonte's a better athlete. I can't watch Grant, and apparently Brad can't either. Can't watch Grant Williams just kind of slog around, And it was interesting that Grant has now gone from night one, people were lobbying hard for him to possibly be a starter ahead of Tice.
Which never made sense.
And he played 5 minutes tonight, and he was minus 10 in those 5 minutes. And I wonder what happens to his minutes. And my feelings about him are well broadcast on these shows. I don't see the value. I see him as a bit role player, and that's about it. I don't see him as an 18, 20-minute guy. I don't see him as a solid rotation player. But it is interesting is the guys you expect to step up in those three in the kind of wing relief roles right now, which is Grant and Semi. Semi's a DNP, and Grant played 5 minutes tonight.
Well, I think you look at Grant, he's unique in the sense that he's sort of, obviously undersized as a big man, but also not quick enough to defend the corner. So it's like, where are you going to fit here? You got Robert
Williams. Low average and everything.
Yeah, seriously. You got Robert Williams snatching your minutes, who obviously has the size, athleticism, running the floor. Man, you talk about someone who's just taken off, and that was huge for the Celtics. And Grant is just sort of not that guy. So he's in a really tough spot right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a 5. It's pretty clear. He can't get those downhill switches. The switches, though.
Honestly, you've been Josue, you've seen him in person. He's probably closer to 6'4" than 6'6".
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
He is not
6'5". Yeah.
He's like a 6'4", 6'5". He does not look. I do not feel like this guy is towering.
Hey, we're tall guys, John. I think we always got to put that in perspective.
Right, but I mean, I'm only 6 feet tall, and I feel like I'm looking pretty close to his eyes.
Well, it's the shoe thing. You get an inch with the shoes, then we're talking 6'5". And
he's an honest 6'4", I think.
Yeah, possibly. I tend to agree that he looks.
The point is, he's a little undersized.
But at 6'4", you're a 2-guard size. We're talking about him being most effective as a 5. He's really, if you're that small, you have to overcompensate with something, which is incredible athleticism or shooting or something. And he doesn't have it. That's the thing. I'm still waiting for, I'm going to date myself with the movie The Jerk, but I'm looking for his special purpose. I don't know what it is, I'm
so shocked about these switches with him, the positioning especially. Now, you're not going to expect him to go out on guards and have that kind of lateral movement to stick with those guys. But some of these handoffs and, non-switches that they've been dealing with there, the play to lose the game 2 nights ago was him and Rob getting mixed up on a switch there. He's just getting killed on the top of the pick and roll right now defensively. And you asked what he's good at, what he brings to the table, John. I still think he shoots pretty well in the corners there. He had a 3 there tonight, but that defense is what he needs to bring, and it's not there at that 4
Small
spot.
ball center in the comments here. Iconic K. That's it. I mean, he's a smart guy. He can do a lot of little things, but you can't rely on him for big minutes. That's all it is. He's a role player, but that role's got to be small. That's all I think. I think he's fine for 5, 8, 10, 12 minutes a game. I do not believe he's a solid 22, 23-minute rotation player. That's all. And that's even on a team right now that's
any signs of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the Celtics brought in Thompson, and they have what we all think may or may not be, but I would say most likely is the emergence of Rob Williams, Time Lord.
Okay, good. I want to get into Rob.
Yeah, although what's up with and John, you mentioned this, what's up with his minutes tonight? Because only 11 minutes coming off a game where we all thought we saw, the light sort of go off despite his, being pretty hard on himself.
Not just
on that last foul.
Brad said
a lot of people.
Brad.
Right. So
he said he's the best center.
Brad said the reason he played tonight is he was our best big. Nothing changed. It's 2 days later. You're playing the same team. Stands to reason if he played well against this team before, you should give him more of a shot. He was nowhere to be found early, which was very surprising. Thompson was playing extremely well, and that's fine. Nobody got into foul trouble. But Tice has been brutal right now. And so I know you don't want to give up on a guy who is so important and integral to your success last year, and he's such a revelation and really just an unsung hero last year, and everybody loved everyone was a big I don't think there's a lot of people who are not Tice guys, but right now with Thompson in there, it's hard to argue. If you're gonna lobby for minutes between the two guys, if Thompson is the anchor, I want to see more Williams than I want to see Tice. I guess it's situational. I just don't understand Williams 11 minutes because when he came in, he was dynamite again, instant energy. As Bobby mentioned, that unit that he was part of spurred the comeback. And again, you're wondering, where was this?
Yeah, there's a case for him to start, frankly. He's so good with Tatum and Brown, the pressure they take off the ball handling that they draw. If you have him diving to the rim, that's 10 instant points there over steady minutes. So it's efficient. Right. It's affecting shots on the other end. Brad always talks about that, affecting shots. He may not be the best positional defender, but he's always going to affect shots with that shot blocking that he brings to the table. And we're seeing strides with him. And the energy on a team that looks dead, lifeless on the defensive end right now, he's giving more effort, energy, intensity on that end of the floor than anyone else is right now. And when he gets in, stuff happens. He is a plus 41 per 100 to start this year. And
that's the thing is, we focus so much with Williams. This is the strange conversation around Williams. I guess I don't know what it is that he does, but it's so easy to point out what he doesn't do well. He jumps out a little bit too much. He's not great on the perimeter. He goes for every shot fake. It seems like sometimes he looks a little lost. People talk about focus issues, but the good clearly outweighs the bad. It's not like the other people you're talking about competing with for minutes are flawless. They have lots of things in their game that you also.
And the analytics love him.
And the analytics, right? He's an analytics darling. I mean, when you shoot basically 90% from the field, which it feels like he has since the bubble last year, that helps the analytics. But just in terms of what he does out there, he's always a plus-minus leader in limited minutes. You always see him on the floor during these runs. It's strange. I don't know. It could be the genius of Brad. This could be the place where, Brad might not get enough credit. He's using him at exactly the right times, and any more might be too much. So maybe, you start asking for more Rob Williams, you get it, and you get the full Rob Williams experience, and you're like, okay, tamp it down. So I don't know.
We might get that tomorrow night. I think he's setting this thing up for the second night of a back-to-back. Daniel Tice has struggled, and I think we're going to see him get his 25 plus or around that area next time we see him. No? You guys don't think so?
Yeah, he's got to, and I'm not going to rip Tice as hard as John did, but he had a rough night tonight. He played with Grant in that bench unit. That kind of hurt him a little bit, but it's hard to argue that Rob hasn't been better so far.
Yeah. I'm not ripping him again. Just go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I was going to Grant just pulling everybody down with
He is. I mean, he's been that bad.
the anchor.
When
the
Grant
anchor of
checks
that
in, everyone
second
else is
unit.
on the bench looking down. They're like,
That
"Don't put
third
me in,
quarter
don't put
was
me
all
in."
Grant minutes.
I don't want to go in. I'll go in later.
I'm good, coach. Yeah, I'm actually not feeling too well right now.
They could play Tice at the 4 too in those. I mean, that they start Tice at the 4 to play these games because you got to find someone. I mean, Javonte
John,
Green
positions don't matter anymore.
They don't.
Positions don't even matter.
You just need more. You need more space. You need more shooters. I just don't know what Tice does out there when you have another.
There's no perfect option, John. I mean, when we don't love Grant,
there
Green
isn't
either.
But when you don't have a traditional big, it's just a tough play.
Well,
I think against a team like this with Turner, you really need more of a perimeter defender on him anyway. So it doesn't really matter. It's just Sabonis you have to account for. So you really only need one guy to muscle there, and not be super concerned with it. I got it, I guess, in the first couple of games because of the Durant, Durant and a classic big component, and the same thing with Giannis and Lopez there. Different matchups. I just don't see. I don't know how much longer Brad sticks with it. That double big lineup. Yeah, I'd rather see Tatum at the 4. You
didn't like that give and go? That was pretty. Pretty good looking. Come on.
It's the one thing they've done together. Oh yeah, Jimmy, you were gonna say something.
The only thing.
No, I was gonna. I mean, when it comes to like lineups and who should start and whatnot, I mean, I kind of defer to you, Bobby, because you kind of have a pretty good idea on the most effective lineups and stuff like that. We all talk about like, oh, it doesn't really matter who they start; it matters who finishes. So that's what I'm really more looking for is down the stretch tonight, like who's in the game, at the points that they need to. Listen, yeah, Tice hasn't had a great start, but we all know what he's capable of in value to this team. I mean, I still would rather have him shooting the ball than Robert Williams, obviously. So it really depends on who is out there with him. Tice is going to have his good games, and so is Rob. And I think like last year we were begging for somebody at that 5 position to be effective other than Tice, and now it seems like there might actually be 3 players, on any given night that can be that guy. So I think that's going to be something that Brad's going to have to figure out over time is who works well with who. And we just talked about Rob being in that starting lineup because he's, has a good thing going with Tatum and Brown. And maybe that's ultimately the factor. And if you can say, oh, Thompson's going to come off the bench, I don't know if that's going to be cool with Thompson, but he certainly is a nice guy to have in a second unit.
It's tough to set him down. He did start the game so well.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's also all temporary. The missing pieces, Jimmy, obviously with Kemba being out, and we got to get to Kemba before we wrap it because that's the last thing I want to talk about. But with Kemba being out and Romeo, again, I don't know what you're going to count for, but honestly, Romeo's the type of guy who you would, if he were healthy right now, give some looks and even consider as a starter in place of a Javonte Green type, because you want to get back to that 3-wing lineup with a single big and a guard. And again, when Kemba's back out, putting Smart back on the bench. I don't think that's the worst thing. I think they'll probably go Kemba, Smart, Tatum, Brown, and 1 big when Kemba's back. But also, again, the TPE option, again, we joke about it. Whoever that ends up being may very well be someone who can plug into a starting lineup, even if they are more of a role player type person, because they fit the mold of what it is you're looking for. It is imperfect. They have no wing depth right now. They actually have big depth, which is why they're starting Tyson Thompson, because as Bobby said, as all of you guys said, nothing else really makes sense right now.
Yeah, lots of bigs here. You might even see Tice gone by the end of the year, and I've said this, expiring contract, going to make some money next offseason. He might be the odd man out there eventually. We'll see though.
I think
again,
at some point
we won't get into it.
You gotta get his mixtape ready. You gotta sell him. You gotta get him. Give him a couple of good games.
This is all gonna matter on who they play.
Make him look nice. But also, another thing I wanted to bring up real quick, guys, before I forget. How much someone like Brad Stevens will value these little 2-game series. Now so let's get 5 of these guys. Now halfway through the season, they'll start doing a more the 5-game road trips and all that stuff.
Awesome.
I love the fact that they're playing twice because you not only learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about the other team and what went wrong.
It should always be like this.
I
think it's great,
and I think that's what Jason Tatum did to a big extent. Maybe he looked at tape, and I think that's a kind of approach that goes a long way. You're spending 4 nights in the same city, so you get a couple of nights of sleep. It's the same sort of schedule that you would see throughout the playoffs. So it's the same sort of mindset in the way they were able to dissect the Pacers and come in tonight and look like a completely different team.
Yep, hockey's doing that every series.
Yep.
Hockey's doing it. We know baseball does it, even though baseball absolutely stinks. So we won't make too many comparisons. But the fact is
this
this:
team will learn a lot about itself.
when you're playing the same team twice, there's a lot of pros to it. One, the players, that I think that level of competition like ramps up a bit, and if there's any bad blood in the first game, maybe that spills over and makes it the second game a little bit more competitive. You've got sort of like a chess match now between the coaches. What adjustments are going to be made based off the first game? I think it's great, and like Bobby mentioned, I mean, less travel. I mean, that's great I'm sure the players appreciate that. Once someday when this COVID is over, maybe they can, get a few days in one city and actually like, take a breath and maybe, do something other than just travel from city to city. And I think the players would like that too. And then you see them again, maybe you play a 2-game series now and you play a 2-game series 3 months from now. So you get a different look of them at that point. So, I mean, I like it. I don't know if they'll keep it, but I like it.
Agree, love it. We've already gone over our marks, so we are going to talk about this briefly. Kemba Walker. This was
oh boy.
This was Brad Stevens. We're going to hear a soundbite from Brad talking prior to the game. You guys I'm curious what the commenters think here. Jimmy and I will tell you what we think. Everyone can interpret it as they will. So here's Brad.
Is there any update on Kemba's progress? Has his window changed at all?
My man, Mark Murphy.
No update. No update that I've received other than he is progressing. I think we'll have more of a big picture update here in the next week sometime, as we thought, right around the turn of the new year. He won't be back anytime soon, Mark. Certainly, we're hopeful to get him back as soon as possible, but we want to make sure that when we do, it's for good. And so I think that that's the most critical thing from our standpoint. I mean, you can see how we miss him. And, it's funny when we go back and put together clips of things that maybe we haven't covered or things that we'd like to do different. He's in all of them. And so we've got to just figure out a way to be the best version of ourselves until he gets back.
All righty.
That's it. YouTube channel for all exclusive. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. There was a little promo on the back end of that. I know what I thought hearing that, and again, but let's start with the sunniest take. Let's start with Bobby. Was that
everything is awesome?
Didn't see too much from it. We'll see what he says next week. It was kind of like a precursor to some news, so I don't have a ton to read into it. Good question by Murph, like Joe Sway said. Like there was no real reason to think anything changed there, but maybe it did. He said he's progressing. Yeah, February is still kind of first week of February is still kind of that mark for me. Like see where he's at then. If you're gonna see what he's doing next
January
week
now. The question is, what does nowhere near or not playing anytime soon mean to you? That does not mean early February to me. Okay, the fact that we are basically in January now and he's not anywhere close to playing and that they're not even talking about considering what a timetable might look like yet means he's way far away from play.
Yeah, but John, are you surprised by this? Like,
yeah,
I don't think surprised. Like the Celtics never said January was going to be. They said the decision was going to be made. They never said that January was going to be. He's going to hit the floor. So I think we all sort of assumed early February was the absolute.
Yeah, maybe All-Star break. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised here, but shout out to Mark Murphy because this is what he does. He plants these seeds for us to, for Brad Stevens to say something like this, and everyone's like, wait a minute, well, how far along is Kemba? Like, well, what did you guys expect? He's going to be evaluated in January, and we're still a few days away from the new year, so I'm not surprised. I just think Walker, the one thing I love that Brad did say, also on top of that, was the fact that when he comes back, he has to go all the way. There can't be these setbacks. Oh, okay, Walker's going to be out for a couple of weeks, and then we'll see what's going to happen. No, this has to be he comes back, and then he goes all the way to the end. And, of course, they're going to monitor his minutes, and, of course, you're not going to see him in the playoffs. He'll rev up here and there. But I love that mindset going into this. If it takes March, F it, then wait till March because the Celtics can't afford to have that lingering over the team heading into the postseason. We don't know if Kemba's going to be able to finish this thing through. It's not the best news, I know, but I mean,
I feel like here's the thing about the Celtics. Here's the thing about the Celtics and like health is like you never seem to ever get good news. When's the last time you've gotten like good positive news on like a Celtics player going through some sort of injury. I can't remember the last time. This is shaping up to me, when he says not playing anytime soon, we're going to get like a big picture look at things. This to me is like setting up for like, something. I hope I'm wrong, but it seems like they're like waiting until they can say, oh, he's like going to be gone for a chunk of this season, if not the whole season. Like, I don't know if he's going to have to end up getting some sort of surgery or what. I will say this. Yeah, I don't think he's. Was that a card? No. Okay. I will say this. I may be wrong, but did I see Kemba was like shooting around in Indiana? Did he travel with the team?
A little bit, something like that. Something like that.
So like he seems like. I mean, I think I saw a clip on CLNS Instagram or something that he was like shooting around, warming up. He was all smiles. So that, I mean, if you want to hold on to anything, maybe that's a good sign that he's with the team and he's, in good spirits. Because if he was, dealing with some potentially really bad news or something, then I don't think that'd be the case. So I hope it's good news that we get. But like John said, I mean, this timeline seems to be like we're looking into like March now, I feel like. And like if they're not trying to rush him back, they're definitely not going to. So I mean,
but yeah, look, my fear is it's sounding to me like a when not, like an if not when, rather than when not, and that's the worry is, we can't possibly make the comment now because we have no clue, but when he is ready, if he's ready, we want him to be fully ready. Like there's a difference between what you want and what's actually happening. So you'll feel a lot better when everyone will, when he progresses to some stage. He's been walking around and taking some shots for a little bit. You really want to see level 2, whatever that
going
is.
On in practice.
Starting to run, starting to play in small sets, some half court, whatever it is. As soon as you get into that, you're like, okay, we're in a program. Him not being anywhere near a program right now is what's a little bit of a worry. Because again, just so everyone remembers, they said they're going to get to January and then make an assessment, which means they're not. The reason they're saying I've got nothing is they're not even thinking about starting him up again until we get somewhere into January, which is why, again, the concern is deep into February, possibly March, who knows? And none of it matters if he comes back full. None of it. None of it. Well, it doesn't matter if it's March, it doesn't matter when, if he's 80, 90, 95% of Kemba.
We'll call it bubble.
Fine, doesn't matter.
They have to.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on this program, though. They're on this program with this knee, whatever it is, they have to follow it, and they're going to follow it. So I think they're just going through the timeline that all the doctors are saying, and depending on when they started it, they have to go through it. It's 12 weeks or whatever it is, and then like you said, I mean, and the only way to know it's working is for him to, practice 5-on-5 scrimmage, see how the knee responds, and then go from there. So I mean, that's a ways away.
Yeah. And they need him. All right, we got a sponsor. LinkedIn, baby.
Oh, wow.
Ready? Okay. New Year's here.
Anybody need a job?
Yeah, New Year's here.
New Year.
We're hiring. Anyone? We're hiring interns right now.
I'm going to rock a resume next time.
Part-time help as well.
Send all your LinkedIn resumes to Joe Sway. Joe Sway, what's your LinkedIn?
I'm on there too. Great website.
Anyway, search it. Not a whole lot of Joe Sway bones out there.
It's I think it's like in message or something like that. Hit me up on there.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
I got to get through this read. The New Year's here. Okay. Marks a fresh start for your small business, whether you're shifting business hours or hiring more remote employees. One thing that's remained unchanged is the importance of having the right people on your team. Okay. And that's where LinkedIn Jobs can help. Active community of professionals, more than 722 million members worldwide. That's a lot. Getting started is easier than ever with new
features. A lot of sales guys. I'll tell you that.
A lot of guys out there. Find qualified candidates quickly. Don't tell Nick that I have an active job search going right now. Post a job with targeted screening questions. LinkedIn will quickly get your role in front of more qualified candidates. Job posts, everything you could want there. It can get you both hired and to hire the right person faster. Of course, there's always something in it for you. So if you go to linkedin.com/scribe, get $50 off your first job post. So that's the promo code there. Okay.
How much is a job post?
LinkedIn.com/scribe. Pay $50 off your first job post.
Hey, that's a good deal. Honestly.
It's a good
And
deal.
if it gets you a job, that $50 is going to mean nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Get
There
paid,
you
kid.
go.
It's a good
Make
deal.
that paper. Like I said, send your resumes to Joe Sway and your reels, whatever you got.
Yeah. We wanted to talk about a couple things. We're not going to get to them. A lot of people here wondering about Jaylen. Jaylen Brown.
Balling. Balling.
Oddly,
Fantastic.
Absent at parts of this game. Oladipo had a really good game on the other end of things. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that.
Bonus?
Some of that was on Jaylen.
Let's make no mistake. Jimmy pointed this out before the season. I'll give it to him. The Pacers are really good. I mean, I underestimated them a little bit.
Yeah.
They're just
but I
solid.
thought
They're
Jaylen
just
played
solid.
a quiet, efficient game. We were wondering where he was for a little bit of time. But it was just an interesting game where he was. Last game we were clamoring for him to take charge a little bit more. It was
Back
weird.
to back, maybe. Yeah.
It was a weird not take charge game. He played
Jaylen?
fine. Yeah.
Somebody tweeted me and said that Brad keeps sitting Jaylen for 8 minutes to start the second quarter. It takes him out of his rhythm. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I can see, I guess, like, you know, a long stretch like that sort of maybe. And then you got halftime all of a sudden. So I can kind of see how that might cool you off a little bit if that's happening.
Miles Turner hit a bunch of threes. People wanted to talk about that. We are running out of time, so we're gonna wrap it here, guys. Final thoughts.
Turner. They put Pritchard on Turner in the game. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Be continued on Turner.
He's good. You know, he's good. He just wasn't the guy for Boston.
All right, is that our final
Who's got
thought?
final thoughts?
That's my final thought. Yeah.
Okay. Just way.
Final thought. Jaylen, I think Jaylen's revving up, fellas. I just love his efficiency. I know he's not always dropping 30, but this pace that he's at, I'm loving it. I'm starting to think that he's going to get himself a closer. You know, he's going to get himself a closing performance. Excuse me. That's what I think is next for Jaylen. Whether that means a game winner or whether that means, I don't know, 4, 6 consecutive points to close out a game. Maybe we see that tomorrow night or at some point. But you know, to start the new year, I think he's gonna. I think he's earned it. You know, maybe he'll get his touches. He'll get his shots.
These are some good. We gotta get these comments in earlier so we can.
Good thing we did that yesterday.
Good job, Joe Sway. Is that Joe Sway's burner?
Yo, don't even, Jimmy.
Joe Sway, you typing in the comments right now, dude?
Never
There was
have I
someone in
heard
the playoffs too, if I remember correctly. Someone was going, "Woo, Joe Sway!"
Yo, because it's facts. What you mean?
At least with me, it was like 40
shout out. What up?
for me.
That's
Bobby
funny.
hasn't had anyone from the States say that yet, but Canada very, very big. Dude, I agree with you, Joe. So Jaylen Brown, you know, I think this is Jaylen Brown's big coming out season. I know that was kind of like in the bubble, but I think he takes like an extra leap this year. I'm not ready to. I asked this question, you guys. Nobody answered it, obviously, but I was like, who would you rather go to war with, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum? I think the tides are turning a bit in terms of like, I don't know, like just like
flip a coin, right?
Something.
Yeah.
I don't know what's gotten in Jaylen Brown, but like he's totally stepping up. And I'm not saying Jason Tatum isn't, but Jaylen Brown's showing me something since the bubble, and he hasn't like stopped showing me something. Like I really think this guy is, you know, off the court awesomeness aside, like his leadership ability is through the roof. So I'm high house in them. My closing thought is this was a must win for the Celtics, and they won. So I'm good on that. And tomorrow I'm interested to see who plays tomorrow. Second night in a back-to-back. That might tell the story of how the season goes and how Brad wants to manage guys.
There's a lot of Jaylen Brown people here. I will say one of my thoughts heading into this game was starting the Tatum versus Brown debate in terms of is it possible Brown is developing as the alpha, or should he be? You know, or should he be? Or should it be considered as such? And one of my thoughts about that was everybody just automatically assumes late in that game, the last game, that the ball's got to go to Tatum. And at what point do you start to rethink that and think maybe Brown's got to have it, just his ability,
especially with the mid-range shot. He's shooting 50% from 2.
Exactly, and his ability to get by people. So I was thinking I was going to drum up that conversation, but again, Tatum had a really solid game. We will wrap it up. We did go over by about 15 minutes, so we're going to thank everybody for joining us again. This has been the Godden Report, brought to you by LinkedIn Learning. Again, thank you. Go to linkedin.com/scribe for your $50 off your first job posting. For Bobby Manning, Josue Pavone, Jimmy Toscano, we got another game tomorrow. Some cast of characters will be here. I can't guarantee everyone, but we're going to try. We'll be here every single night. We love the comments, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe.
It's like the subscriptions are going through the roof. It helps us reach more people, gets it out to more people, gets it to you guys faster. So if you haven't subscribed already, we have our main channel, and we have our Celtics exclusive channel as well. Either one is good for this kind of stuff. You get all of our video content, press conferences coming up soon after the game, all of our podcasts on the network. It's a can't miss. So please do so. Thanks for joining. We will say goodnight. Jimmy?
I was just going to say, and if you don't want to look at our faces, you can subscribe to the podcast versions too. Just listen in the car, wherever you are. You want to listen to the show back, you can do that.
That's true. I'm less punchable in audio.
That's voice resonating in your headphones, guys. Come on, do it up.
Thank you, everybody.